In the dead of night, within the opulent walls of the grand palace, a young and powerful Pharaoh tossed and turned in his golden bed. Shadows danced on the walls, mirroring the turmoil in his mind. He was the master of a great empire, yet sleep, a simple gift, eluded him. His eyes fluttered shut, and as he drifted off, he was plunged into a world far stranger than any waking reality. This was not a peaceful slumber. It was the beginning of a vision, a divine message that would shake the very foundations of his kingdom. The scene shifted, the gilded chamber dissolving into the shimmering waters of the mighty Nile. The air was warm, the sun brilliant. Out of the life-giving river, 7 cows emerged, their coats sleek and shining. They were magnificent beasts, fat and healthy, a picture of prosperity and abundance. They grazed peacefully on the lush green reeds along the riverbank, their contentment radiating like the sun's warmth. It was a scene of perfect harmony, a symbol of Egypt's strength and wealth. The land was blessed, the cattle were thriving, and all seemed right with the world. But this idyllic vision was not to last. The tranquil waters of the Nile began to churn. Suddenly, a disturbance broke the peaceful surface. The water frothed and bubbled as something monstrous emerged from the depths. 7 other cows surfaced, but these were a horrifying sight. They were gaunt and ugly, their ribs starkly visible beneath their stretched, dry skin. They were nothing but walking skeletons, their eyes glowing with a desperate, insatiable hunger. They didn't even glance at the plentiful reeds. Their gaze was fixed on the 7 fat cows. In a horrifying turn of events, the skinny cows lunged forward. Their mouths opened to an unnatural, terrifying width, and one by one, they devoured the healthy, sleek cows whole. It was a macabre, impossible feast. The scene was shocking, a violation of nature itself. Yet, after consuming their well-fed counterparts, the gaunt cows remained just as skeletal, just as starved as before. Their hunger was not satisfied. The feast had done nothing to fatten them. They stood there, hollow and dreadful, a vision of unending famine. Pharaoh's eyes shot open. He sat bolt upright, gasping for air, his body drenched in a cold sweat. His heart hammered against his ribs. The images were seared into his mind, so vivid, so real. The room was silent, the only sound his own ragged breathing. He tried to shake it off, to dismiss it as a mere nightmare, a product of a restless mind. He lay back down, pulling the fine linens around him, seeking comfort. He closed his eyes, desperate for a peaceful rest. But sleep, when it came again, offered no escape. Instead, it dragged him into a second, equally disturbing dream. This time, there was no river, no cattle. He found himself in a vast field under the Egyptian sun. Before him, a single stalk of corn began to grow with impossible speed. From this one stalk sprouted 7 heads of grain. They were perfect, plump, full, and golden, heavy with the promise of a rich harvest. It was a symbol of incredible fertility, a blessing from the gods. But just as he marveled at this sight, the vision soured. Beside the healthy stalk, another began to grow. This one produced 7 thin heads of grain, scorched and withered as if blasted by a harsh east wind. They were empty, brittle, and lifeless. And then the nightmare repeated its logic. The 7 thin heads of grain, with a ghastly, rustling sound, lunged toward the full heads and swallowed them completely. Again, the starved consumed the healthy, and again, nothing changed. The thin heads remained just as blighted and empty as before. This time, when Pharaoh awoke, he was with a cry of pure terror. He sat up, his body trembling, his eyes wide with fear. The shadows in his chamber seemed to mock him, twisting into the shapes of gaunt cows and withered grain. These were not ordinary dreams. He knew it in his soul. They were too vivid, too structured, too bizarre. A chilling sense of dread washed over him. These visions felt like a prophecy, A warning. But a warning of what? He was the most powerful man in the world, the living God on earth, but he was utterly helpless to understand what his own mind was showing him. He looked around his dark, silent room, the symbols of his power offering no comfort. The silence was deafening, amplifying the question that echoed in his terrified heart. What did this mean? What terrible future was looming over his kingdom? The night offered no answers, only a profound and terrifying sense of foreboding. The king was afraid, and when the king is afraid, the entire kingdom holds its breath. He knew he could not rest until he found an answer. His search for meaning was about to begin, and it would change the course of history forever. Thank you for watching this part of our story. We're diving deep into these ancient tallies to bring them to life for you. If you're captivated by this journey and want to see what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps us create more content like this. We love reading your thoughts, so drop a comment below with your theories about Pharaoh's dreams. We'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our story. Last time, we left Joseph still in prison, seemingly forgotten. But now, we shift our focus back to the grandest court in all the land, the throne room of Pharaoh himself. Imagine the scene. The vast hall is buzzing, but not with celebration. It's filled with tension and fear. Magicians, wise men, sorcerers, the most brilliant minds in Egypt are all gathered, arguing amongst themselves, their faces etched with confusion and failure. On his magnificent throne, Pharaoh isn't the picture of power you might expect. He's leaning forward, his brow furrowed with frustration, his knuckles white as he grips the armrests. He looks utterly exhausted, like a man who hasn't slept in days, haunted by something he can't understand. The air is thick with the smell of incense and desperation. The greatest minds of the kingdom have been summoned for one purpose, and they have all failed. Pharaoh's patience, it's clear, has worn dangerously thin. He has had a dream, or rather two dreams, and they've shaken him to his core. These weren't just ordinary nighttime fantasies. He feels in his bones that they carry a heavy, urgent meaning for his entire kingdom. And yet, no one can tell him what that meaning is. Finally, Pharaoh's frustration boils over. He slams his fist on the arm of his throne, the sound echoing through the suddenly silent hall. He rises, his voice booming with royal fury. Is there no one in all of Egypt who can tell me what I dreamed? He glares at the assembled wise men, his eyes sweeping over them with contempt. You are all useless. The sorcerers and magicians shrink back, avoiding his gaze. They whisper nervously to one another, but no one dares to speak up. The power they claim to possess has vanished when they need it most. The silence in the throne room is deafening, broken only by the king's heavy breathing. It seems like all hope is lost. The most powerful man in the world is helpless, trapped by a mystery locked inside his own mind. The weight of the unknown presses down on everyone in the room. What could be so terrifying in a dream that it brings an entire empire to a standstill? And if the wisest men in Egypt can't solve it, who possibly can? It's a moment of complete and utter deadlock, a king's command that no one can obey. But then, a figure emerges from the crowd. He moves slowly, timidly, as if hesitant to draw attention to himself. It's the chief cupbearer, the same man whose dream Joseph interpreted in prison 2 long years ago. He had been restored to his position, just as Joseph predicted, but in his joy and relief, his promise to remember Joseph had faded away. Now, standing before the furious Pharaoh, his face is pale with shame. He has just witnessed the failure of Egypt's greatest minds, and suddenly, a memory, long buried and guilt-ridden, surfaces. He knows someone who might be able to help, someone he should have spoken of long ago. He approaches the throne and bows low, his voice barely a whisper at first, filled with regret. "O king," he begins, not daring to look Pharaoh in the eye. I remember my faults this day. The words hang in the air, a stark and personal confession in the midst of a national crisis. Pharaoh turns his fiery gaze upon him, his anger momentarily replaced by curiosity. What could the cupbearer's personal failings have to do with this? Everyone waits, holding their breath. The cupbearer has the full, undivided attention of the king. The cupbearer takes a deep breath, the weight of his 2-year silence clearly heavy on his soul. He continues, his voice growing a little stronger as he recounts the story he should have told long ago. When your majesty was angry with your servants, you put me and the chief baker in custody, in the house of the captain of the guard. He glances around the opulent exhaustion and anger, now sits bolt upright. His eyes widen. A flicker of hope, the first he's felt all day, ignites within him. A Hebrew slave? In a dungeon? It sounds absurd, yet the cupbearer's testimony is earnest and compelling. The greatest sorcerers of his kingdom have failed him, so what does he have to lose by listening to a forgotten prisoner? The king's mind races. Could this be the answer he's been searching for? Could the key to his terrifying dreams lie not in the grand temples or schools of magic, but in the darkest corner of a prison cell? He leans forward, his frustration replaced by an intense, urgent focus. His voice is no longer a yell, but a sharp, decisive command that cuts through the silence of the throne room. Bring him to me. He points a commanding finger towards the door. Now, the order is absolute. The wheels of destiny, which had seemed stuck for so long, suddenly begin to turn with breathtaking speed. Joseph, the forgotten dreamer, the man who had been at the bottom, is about to be summoned to the very top. From the pit to the palace, his life is about to change forever. And that is where we'll leave it for today. What a cliffhanger! After 2 long years of waiting, Joseph's moment has finally arrived, all because of a dream and a guilty memory. The stage is set for an incredible confrontation. Can Joseph interpret Pharaoh's dreams? And what could these dreams possibly mean for the future of Egypt and for Joseph himself? We are on the brink of one of the most dramatic turnarounds in the entire story. I can't wait to see what happens next, and I hope you feel the same way. Thank you so much for joining me for this part of the journey. If you're enjoying this series, please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Hit that like button and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you next time as Joseph is brought before Pharaoh. Thanks for watching. The clang of the heavy iron door echoed through the damp stone walls of the dungeon, a sound Joseph had grown accustomed to over the long years. Day in, day out, it was the same monotonous routine. Scrub the floors, eat the stale bread, sleep on the cold ground, and repeat. The dim light from a high barred window was his only clock, marking the slow, agonizing passage of time. He was just another forgotten prisoner, his dreams and his past buried under layers of despair. He hunched over, his muscles aching, the rough bristles of the scrub brush scraping against the grimy stone. The rhythmic sound was a dismal metronome for his wasted life. He had once interpreted dreams for a butler and a baker, men who had walked out of this very prison. The butler had promised to remember him, to speak a word to Pharaoh. But 2 full years had passed. 2 years of silence. 2 years of fading hope. Joseph sighed, the sound lost in the vast empty space. He was convinced he would die in this pit, his name and his story erased from the world. Suddenly, the prison door didn't just creak open for a guard to toss in his meager meal. It burst open with a force that sent a shockwave through the entire cell block. A blinding shaft of sunlight sliced through the gloom, so intense that Joseph had to throw his arm over his eyes. Silhouetted against the brilliant light stood figures, not the familiar, rough-hewn guards he knew. These men were different. Their armor gleamed, their postures were ramrod straight, and they carried an aura of authority that didn't belong in this place of decay. They were royal officials, emissaries from the palace itself. Joseph's heart hammered against his ribs. What could they possibly want with him? Had he committed some new, unknown offense? Was this the day of his execution? Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the dull ache of his daily existence. He remained frozen, his hand still gripping the scrub brush, his knuckles white. The air grew thick with tension, every prisoner in the vicinity holding their breath. One of the officials, his voice booming with importance and impatience, scanned the dungeon, and his eyes locked onto Joseph. The name echoed off the stone walls, a name Joseph hadn't heard spoken with such authority in over a decade. Joseph, the Pharaoh commands your presence. Hurry! The words hung in the air, electric and unbelievable. Pharaoh, the living god of Egypt? Why would the most powerful man in the world summon a forgotten Hebrew slave from the depths of a dungeon? It made no sense. Joseph's mind reeled, trying to process the command. He felt a dizzying wave of confusion and disbelief. Was this a dream? A cruel joke? He slowly, hesitantly lowered his arm, squinting at the imposing figures. Their faces were stern, their stance unwavering. This was real. The scrub brush slipped from his numb fingers and clattered onto the wet floor. The small sound magnified in the sudden silence. He pushed himself to his feet, his knees weak and trembling, his prisoner's rags hanging loosely on his thin frame. The moment he had prayed for, the moment he had given up on, had arrived in the most unexpected way imaginable. The next hour was a blur, a whirlwind of activity that jolted Joseph out of his prison-induced stupor. He was whisked away from his cell, not in chains, but with a strange sense of urgency. First, they took him to be cleaned. A barber with steady hands and a sharp razor approached him. The rough, matted beard that had grown over years of neglect, a testament to his suffering and abandonment, was carefully shaved away. With each pass of the blade, a piece of the prisoner fell to the floor, revealing a face that was younger than his years of hardship suggested. The face of a man, not a convict. The feel of the smooth skin on his own chin was a foreign sensation, a ghost of the boy he used to be. He stared at his faint reflection in the polished metal, barely recognizing the man looking back. He was shedding the identity that had been forced upon him for so long. The grime, the sweat, the filth of the dungeon had become a second skin, a constant reminder of his lowliness. Next, he was led to a bath. The water was warm, a luxury he hadn't felt in what seemed like a lifetime. He submerged himself, washing away the years of accumulated dirt and despair. The water swirled with the grayness of the prison, and as it drained, it felt as though it was carrying away his sorrow with it. He scrubbed his skin until it was raw, wanting to remove every last trace of his captivity. It was a baptism of sorts, a cleansing not just of the body, but of the spirit. He emerged from the water feeling lighter, reborn. The guards, who once looked at him with contempt, now watched with a detached curiosity. Something was changing. The forgotten slave was being transformed before their very eyes. This was no ordinary prisoner being prepared for a hearing. This was someone being prepared for an audience with a king. The significance of the moment began to sink in, filling him with a mixture of terror, and a tiny flickering flame of hope. What did Pharaoh want? The question pounded in his head, a relentless drumbeat against the backdrop of his sudden transformation. Finally, the rags he had worn for years, stained and tattered, were taken from him. In their place, he was given fine, clean linen clothes. The fabric was soft against his skin, a stark contrast to the coarse, scratchy material he was used to. He dressed himself slowly, deliberately. The simple white tunic and robe felt like royal garments. As he fastened the sash around his waist, he stood up straighter. He looked down at himself, at the clean hands, the smooth face, the pristine garments. He was no longer Joseph the prisoner, Joseph the slave. He was Joseph. He looked like a new man, an Egyptian nobleman. The transformation was complete. The outer shell of the prisoner had been stripped away, revealing the man who had been buried underneath. He was ready. Whatever awaited him, he would face it not as a cowering inmate, but as the man he was always meant to be. The officials nodded in approval. It was time. He was led through a series of corridors, each one grander and brighter than the last, until they reached the massive outer doors of the prison. The guards heaved them open, and the full force of the Egyptian sun hit him. It was a glorious, blinding light. He had to squint, his eyes watering from the sudden, overwhelming brightness after so many years spent in the perpetual twilight of the dungeon. The air was fresh and warm, filled with the distant sounds of a bustling city, a symphony of life he had been deprived of for 13 long years. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the sweet air of freedom. He stood on the threshold for a moment, the dark, damp prison behind him, and the bright, unknown future before him. He felt the pull of the past, the memories of injustice and pain. But he didn't look back. There was nothing for him there. With a steady resolve, he took his first step out of the prison, walking into the light, never once glancing over his shoulder. The prisoner was gone. A new chapter had begun. Have you ever had one of those days where everything just seems to go wrong? You wake up late, spill coffee on your shirt, and then get stuck in traffic. It feels like the universe is conspiring against you. We've all been there. Now imagine that kind of day, but stretched out over 13 long, agonizing years. That was Joseph's reality. 13 years of betrayal, false accusations, and imprisonment. 13 years of being forgotten in a dark, damp dungeon. It's hard to even wrap our minds around that kind of suffering, that level of despair. Think about it. From being his father's favorite son, draped in a coat of many colors, to being sold into slavery by his own brothers. He ends up in Egypt, works his way up in Potiphar's house, only to be falsely accused and thrown into prison. In prison, he helps the cupbearer, who promises to remember him, but then forgets him for 2 whole years. It's just one gut punch after another. Every glimmer of hope seems to be extinguished almost as soon as it appears. It would be so easy to give up, to become bitter, to curse God and everyone around him. How do you hold on to faith when it feels like faith has abandoned you? But this is where Joseph's story takes a turn that is more dramatic than any Hollywood movie. This isn't just a story about suffering. It's a story about what happens on the other side of it. It's about how the darkest night can break into the most glorious dawn. And it all happens in a single day, in a single moment, really. So let's set the scene. We're in the grand throne room of the most powerful man on earth, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The room is dead silent. You can feel the tension in the air. Pharaoh is deeply troubled. He's had these 2 bizarre dreams, and none of his wise men, none of his magicians, can figure them out. They're stumped, utterly useless. And when a pharaoh is unhappy, nobody is happy. Then, the forgotten cupbearer has a sudden memory flash. Hey, I remember this guy in prison ... a Hebrew. He interpreted my dream perfectly. And just like that, Joseph is summoned. He's rushed out of the dungeon, cleaned up, given a shave and some decent clothes, and brought before Pharaoh. Imagine the culture shock. 1 minute you're in a prison cell, the next you're standing in a magnificent palace in front of royalty. Pharaoh tells Joseph his dreams. The first one: 7 fat, healthy cows come up from the Nile River, and then 7 ugly, skinny cows come up and eat the healthy ones. The second dream is similar: 7 plump, good heads of grain, swallowed up by 7 thin, withered heads. Weird, right? But Joseph doesn't even flinch. He doesn't take credit. His first You need to find a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Appoint officials, collect 1/5 of the produce during the 7 good years, and store it up. This food will be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine, so that the land may not perish. It's a brilliant, comprehensive economic plan. It's practical, it's wise, and it's life-saving. Pharaoh is blown away. He looks at his advisors, who are probably just standing there with their jaws on the floor. Then he looks back at Joseph. He doesn't just see a prisoner. He sees a man filled with uncommon wisdom, a man with a divine connection. He sees the Spirit of God in him. Pharaoh stands up and walks down from his throne toward Joseph. He asks his court, almost rhetorically, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then, turning directly to Joseph, he says, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you." The decision is made, right then and there. It's swift, it's decisive. Pharaoh takes the signet ring from his own hand. This is the symbol of his authority, like his personal signature and credit card all in one. He declares, "You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And then he slides that heavy, ornate ring onto Joseph's finger. Can you imagine that moment? Joseph looks down at his hands. An hour ago, these hands were bound in chains. Now, one of them bears the seal of the king of Egypt. Servants rush forward. They drape him in robes of fine linen, the kind reserved for royalty. They place a heavy gold chain around his neck. In a single morning, Joseph's entire world is flipped upside down, but this time, in the most incredible way. He went from the pit to the palace, from a prisoner to the prime minister, the second most powerful man in the known world. All those years of suffering, of waiting, of holding on to a thread of hope, it all culminated in this one breathtaking moment. The dreamer, the one whose dreams got him into this mess in the first place, had finally awakened to a reality far greater than anything he could have ever dreamed of. What an incredible testament to faith and perseverance. Joseph's story reminds us that our current circumstances are never the final chapter. No matter how deep the pit, no matter how long the prison sentence, a single moment can change everything. God's timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully slow to us. Joseph didn't know this day was coming when he woke up in that dungeon, but he lived in a way that prepared him for it. His character was forged in the fire of affliction, and when his moment came, he was ready. Thank you so much for joining me on this part of Joseph's journey. It's a story that never ceases to amaze and inspire. If you found this encouraging, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. There's so much more to come. See you in the next one. We've followed Joseph's incredible journey, from a beloved son to a betrayed brother, from an enslaved servant to a forgotten prisoner. But even in the darkest dungeons of Egypt, a divine plan was unfolding. Joseph's story isn't just about hardship. It's about how faith can turn impossible situations into incredible triumphs. Now, after years of silence and solitude, Joseph is about to be thrust into the most powerful room in the ancient world. The fate of an entire nation rests on his shoulders, and the key to its survival lies in a dream that no one can understand. Get ready, because the moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. Joseph is pulled from the darkness of his cell, cleaned up, and rushed into the dazzling throne room of Pharaoh himself. Imagine the scene. The air is thick with tension. The most powerful man on earth, the Pharaoh, is visibly shaken, his face pale with fear. His court is filled with the wisest men of Egypt, magicians, sorcerers, and scholars, all of them standing in defeated silence. They've all tried and failed to interpret the king's terrifying nightmares. Now, all eyes turn to this humble Hebrew prisoner standing before the throne. Pharaoh looks at Joseph, a glimmer of desperation in his eyes. He says, "I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Think about the pressure in that moment. The most powerful ruler in the world is looking to you for an answer that his own top advisors could and provide. But Joseph's response is a masterclass in humility and faith. He doesn't take credit. He doesn't boast about his abilities. Instead, he immediately points to a higher power. Joseph replies, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." With this profound statement, Joseph sets the stage. He makes it clear that any wisdom he possesses comes not from himself, but from God. He is merely a vessel, a messenger. This act of humility immediately sets him apart from the proud magicians of the court. Intrigued, Pharaoh begins to recount his disturbing dreams. "In my dream," Pharaoh begins, "I was standing on the bank of the Nile. Suddenly, 7 cows came up out of the river, sleek and fat, and they grazed in the reed grass. Then 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and thin, such as I had never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the thin, ugly cows ate up the first 7 fat cows. But when they had eaten them, no one would have known it, for they were still as ugly as before." Pharaoh pauses, the memory clearly unsettling him. "Then I fell asleep again and saw in my dream 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. And then 7 other heads, withered, thin, and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them. And the thin heads swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me." The court is silent, hanging on every word. Joseph listens intently, his expression calm and focused. While everyone else sees 2 separate, bizarre nightmares, Joseph, guided by divine insight, sees a single unified message. He sees the hand of God revealing the future. After Pharaoh finishes, Joseph doesn't hesitate. He looks directly at the king and says, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do." This is a bold declaration. He's not just offering an opinion. He is proclaiming a divine revelation. Joseph begins to lay it all out, connecting the symbols in a way no one else could. He holds up 7 fingers. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. The dreams are one. They represent 7 years of great abundance that are coming throughout all the land of Egypt. A wave of relief probably washed over the court. 7 years of prosperity. This sounded like fantastic news, But Joseph wasn't finished. His expression turned serious. The 7 thin, ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads blighted by the east wind are also 7 years. They will be 7 years of famine. The mood in the throne room shifts instantly from relief to dread. Famine. The word itself was a death sentence in the ancient world. Joseph continues, painting a stark picture of the future. This famine will be so severe that the abundance in the land will not be remembered because of the famine that follows. The land of Egypt will be ravaged. He explains that the dream was repeated to Pharaoh in 2 forms, cows and grain, to show that the matter is firmly decided by God and that God will make it happen soon. The message is urgent. This isn't a distant possibility. It's an imminent reality. Pharaoh is stunned, his face a mask of fear. The richest, most powerful nation on earth is facing total ruin. The question hangs heavy in the air. What can be done? Is there any hope? He looks at Joseph, the one man who understood the warning, and asks the most important question of his reign. What shall we do? And here, Joseph transitions from interpreter to advisor. He doesn't just deliver the bad news. He delivers the solution. This is the genius of God's plan. The warning came with a blueprint for survival. Now therefore, Joseph advises, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint overseers and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. The plan is brilliant in its simplicity. Use the years of unprecedented plenty to prepare for the years of unprecedented lack. He concludes that food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine which are to be in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine. In a matter of minutes, Joseph, the forgotten prisoner, has interpreted the king's dream, predicted the economic future of the entire region, and laid out a national salvation plan. He didn't just see the problem. He saw the God-given solution. He demonstrated not only divine insight, but incredible wisdom, leadership, and administrative skill. The court, once filled with the greatest minds of Egypt, now looks on in silent awe at this Hebrew slave who has just saved their nation. The stage is now set for Joseph's most traumatic promotion yet, a rise to power that is as breathtaking as it is divinely orchestrated. Thank you so much for watching this part of Joseph's incredible story. What do you think of his wisdom and faith in this moment? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this series, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this amazing journey. We'll see you in the next video.